Het-Heru, Haru Nefer, Namaste. This is Kasant Maha Keparu with another broadcast for you. And today I want to go over the 3 levels of reality. That's right, there are 3 different levels to the reality that we perceive. Now, what if I were to tell you that not everyone out there is experiencing the same reality that you are? In fact, there are 3 distinct different types of experiences that people are going through. Now, I've already said in previous videos that there is no such thing as an objective reality, meaning that reality does not exist apart from the observer. And we know that our thoughts, our beliefs, and our actions affect and change reality on a quantum level. But now let's go back to this and get a better understanding of how everyone is not experiencing the same reality. And I know it's like kind of a radical thought there, but it's true. Let's take a look at this diagram for the brain. We know that there are 2 hemispheres to the brain, the left hemisphere and the right hemisphere. And each one serves a specific function. So let me just read through this really quickly. The left brain, I am the left brain. I am a scientist, a mathematician. I love the familiar, I categorize, I am accurate, linear, analytical, strategic, I am practical. Always in control, a master of words and language. Realistic, I calculate equations and play with numbers. I am in order, I am logic. I know exactly who I am. So this is a kind of poetic way of saying that the left brain is linear in its thinking. It's very analytical. It does a lot of things with language in terms of how you speak and how you communicate. It calculates, it's involved in math. And this is where you have the professions like mathematicians and scientists, because the left brain is something that they have to utilize more so than the right brain. So if you're an accountant, you're going to be relying on the left brain. So let's take a look at the right brain. It says, I am the right brain. I am creativity. I am free spirit. I am passion, yearning, sensuality. I am the sound of roaring laughter. I am taste, the feeling of sand beneath bare feet. I am movement, vivid colors. I am the urge to paint on an empty canvas. I am boundless imagination. Art, poetry, I sense, I feel. I am everything I want it to be. Now, the right brain is non-linear. And it also is fluid and dynamic. So it doesn't need a precedent, or it doesn't need something to reference in terms to go back and say, well, this was done before, so this is how I'll do it now. It doesn't have to refer back to that paradigm. It is also dealing with the emotions, artistic endeavors, and basically feelings, senses, colors. Now, when I talked about before the 3 levels of reality, we have to understand that the predominant way that the world works today is it is polarized, or in the dominant process of left brain thinking. We know from our ancient ancestors that however you are thinking in terms of what hemisphere of the brain you're using is how reality will appear to you, because you filter out certain things, is from what we understand, based on the fact of how you're using your brain. For example, left brain people will not be interested in the bright and fancy colors. They won't be interested so much in the emotions, because the left brain is more cold and calculating. So this is where we find ourselves at in the world today, more left brain. This is why you'll see movies where you'll see us idolizing criminals or devious individuals. This is why we have a government and politicians who are sneaky and conniving, because it's all coming out of the left brain. And that is creating the reality of our world. You see, again, I go back to saying, basically, reality does not exist apart from the observer. So if you are observing the world and using the left brain, you are creating a particular type of reality, one that has opposition, because the left brain is a segregated thought process, and it does not reconcile duality. So it will see one thing is good and the other thing is bad, and is happy and comfortable living that way. Whereas if you are polarized in right brain thinking, that is synthesis thinking. So you're going to be looking at the good and the bad, and you're going to try to merge them and bring them together, synthesize them. you will not see contradictions. And this is the way our ancient ancestors thought, and this is how they were able to build their societies. Now, I want to tell you this. The idea that we're polarizing left brain thinking is done on purpose. It was a calculated effort by the ruling elite so that we would not understand the totality of reality. You'll see where Egyptologists, archaeologists talk about how ancient or primitive people worship the dead, how they believed in mumbo jumbo, meaning dimensional travel, astral projection, spirits, and all that stuff. And that is because when you're focusing so much on the left brain, you can't see these other realms or these metaphysical aspects. Okay, so I talked about 3 levels of existence. So the first level of reality, precisely, is the left brain, which perceives one form of reality. Then you have the right brain, which perceives another type of reality. And then the third way is through dual or integrated brain thinking. When both brains are synchronized in harmony, then you have a holistic view and a proper perspective on the world, so-called outside or reality. Because you have to understand that even if we weren't polarizing left brain thinking, let's say we were polarizing right brain thinking, that's still just as bad. We need both components, both hemispheres working together to give us the true picture of what is going on. And this is how our ancestors created their civilization, which is integrated brain thinking. They were masters of both sides of the brain. Now, you can never have a 50-50 split. That'll never work because you're constantly shifting back and forth. I mean, one day you'll be using 60% of the left brain and 40% of the right. And then the next day it'll be 60% of the right and 40% of the left. So it will shift depending upon the activity you're engaged in. Obviously, if you're doing something like math, the left brain will be engaged more and you'll be polarized more while doing that activity. Otherwise, if you're doing something like creating a painting, or if you're an actor or filmmaker, the right brain will kick in more, and you're probably using 90% of the right brain and only 10% of the left brain. I mean, that's hypothetical. But this, I just wanted to give you this idea that now you're talking about what hemisphere you're using actually transforms and creates a new reality for you. So the reality that we see that exists today in our modern world is a product of left brain thinking. All right? If we were to suddenly switch and get polarized in right brain thinking, the physical reality of what we perceive would radically change. Everything would change. It would look totally different because remember, there's a relationship between the observer and reality. Reality cannot exist apart from the observer. So that means that the subatomic particles are taking form and taking shape depending upon what hemisphere of the brain you're using. Now imagine a world if we were using both hemispheres of the brain, integrated brain thinking. We would totally change things overnight if the masses of people on the planet were to start using that modality of thinking. Now get this, we don't need the total population of billions and billions of people on the planet to be engaged in integrated brain thinking to change the reality. We only have to get to a so-called tipping point, or a point at which the majority of people are thinking that way. Because even now in today's world, though the majority of people are thinking left brain, there are still chunks of people who are integrated and chunks of people who are right brain. But again, if you've read anything about the 100-monkey principle, you understand that it takes a certain amount of people that you need to get to transform the reality that you're experiencing. And that could be 1 billion, it could be 2 billion. We don't know exactly how many people is necessary or populations are necessary, but we know that this is how things are. Now, I'm going to take a little bit step further. You must understand that the dominance between hemispheres also exists by gender. So males are generally left brain, females are generally right brain, because women have more connection to their internal emotions, and they're good at reading sub-communication, meaning body language. All right? Most cultures of European descent are left brain. Most cultures of African descent are right brain. So when you're all looking at this in terms of gender, in terms of race, the dynamics change. So therefore, you can see how each population perceived the world in a very different way and very different manner. And the problem that we're having today is that we are engaged in dual brain thinking. And I mean dual by D-U-E-L, where they are combating each other and they're not reconciling things. What we want to get to is dual brain thinking, which is D-U-A-L, where they're working in conjunction and synthesize with each other. And a lot of this is going to have to be trained into our psyche. Or the other option is activating certain psychic centers with tones and vibrations and through music, because music is a good way of basically sparking those different aspects of the brain. This is why you'll see the music industry on a global level focuses on very grounded earth sounds or hard beats, because they trap you in fourth dimensional thinking. It's more concrete. When those beats and the drums are very hard hitting, then you're more connected to the earthly realm. When the tones go up, then you're more connected to a higher consciousness, which is what the ruling elite does not want us to do. Because when the vibrations start to change and the music can literally transform people overnight, then we will no longer be subject to this illusion, this Maya of materialism and evil. Then we will shift to a parallel world, one that's conducive to spiritually conscious individuals. In fact, some of us have already made the crossover into that parallel world, and some of us who are meant to stay here and help guide others, such as sages and priests and priestesses, that is our role. We're still here in this reality, and we'll be here for a while until we can help as many souls or individuals cross over into the new parallel world. So I hope all of this makes sense, so you understand the 3 levels to reality, and you understand that how your brain functions determines the reality that's outside of you. But keep in mind, there's really no outside. It's all within you, because your brain is making synaptic connections. It's sparking, literally it's sparking through electrical impulses, certain areas of the brain to create patterns and create reality that you perceive as an outside material matter. So that's all for now. If you like this video, please hit the like button, subscribe to this channel. And until my next broadcast, this is Kasant Ma Keperu, son of Ma'at, Amen Ra.